things are going so well, I'm going to hit the big time. So I did go out to California, just not having any success out there. And then I discovered the diploma that I thought I had, I didn't actually have. I can't get a job if I don't have a degree.
What would you do if you packed your bags after graduation, moved across the country for a job in a booming industry, only to find upon arrival that you hadn't actually graduated and that the industry had just tanked? Well, that's Joel Anderson's story. Joel's an InterVarsity alum, a friend of mine from church, and a guy who experienced a lot of failure after graduation. And he's here to share the story of moving across the country for nothing. Or so he thought. Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. I'm your host and guide, John Steele, and this one's for you, alumni. Joel, welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here, John.
Yes, glad to have you. Joel, before we dive into this really interesting story that you've got to share with us today, would you just help our listeners get to know you a little bit and give us a brief introduction?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Joel Anderson. I'm a former alumni. I went to school at Minnesota State University Mankato. It used to be called Mankato State when I was there.
That's right.
Because that was, 30 to 25 years ago.
Okay.
So probably one of the older people you're interviewing here.
I don't know about that, Joel.
Oh, well. Yeah. And I've, John, you've asked me here to just kind of reflect on challenges, that I've experienced. And I have a pretty good story about my life shortly after school. So, 25-ish years ago, God really did show up in my life, but I sure didn't see it initially.
Okay.
So,
I'm always sorry when people go through those things in the moment, but I'm grateful that you're here today to tell us a little bit about it and that you've got some perspective, some kind of long view perspective to be able to reflect and say, like, God was actually pretty faithful in this rough moment. And so, I mean, Joel, feel free to just kind of take us away here. I know it's a story of making a pretty big move, having a strategy, a plan that you were leaning into, and that things just didn't quite go as you expected. So tell us what happened.
Yeah. So, growing up, I was the oldest of 4 kids, and it always kind of felt like we were struggling financially. And so, going into college, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a job that makes money, right? I'm not going to be poor, maybe someday I'll help my parents out, I mean,
there you go. Yeah.
So, so I it started in engineering, electrical engineering is what I was going to try to do. And once I got into school, I realized that's actually pretty hard. I did graduate with an engineering sort of degree, went into computer science. Found I enjoyed computer science and programming a lot more than circuit design, which, and if you're not a engineering student, this might be really silly, or you might not be tracking, but at any rate, computer science was an awesome degree to go into, by the way.
Yeah.
But so in school, while I was going to school, it was the sky was the limit. Computer science was, people going into computer science basically had a guaranteed job, right? At least that's what we were being told by everybody at school, and society seemed to reflect that. It was kind of historically right in the middle of the .com bubble.
Okay.
And
everything was booming.
Everything was booming. I mean, and honestly, even my junior year, I was actually approached by a friend of the family who had started his own software consulting business.
Okay.
And he just was looking for warm bodies that could maybe grasp, this new computer science world, So he hired me, and I actually started working there part-time my junior year. And by the end, by my senior year, I could have been probably teaching some of my professors about actual software principles and applications because I was using them, right? So it's like this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like
You're ready
not
to
even
go.
done with school. I'm using my degree. Yeah. And so that was good. And, it was kind of the trajectory was like, okay, you're totally going to succeed with what you went to school for. Cause that's just how things are. Right. So, I mean, things were going really well. I graduated, did some overseas travel, took a little time off.
Okay.
And then I decided, this awesome job that I've been working is cool, but like I'm definitely gonna, the trajectory is gonna continue upward, right? I'm just gonna continue to ride this wave, right?
Right.
So actually ended up out in Southern California and San Diego. My grandfather lived out there.
Wow.
And and it was, I decided I was gonna move out there with him and get a job in Silicon Valley or something, right? California is where all the cool stuff's happening, clearly.
Right.
So,
right. And just to clarify one point here, Joel, you like grew up in Mankato, right? So this is like
correct.
Mankato,
so
like
I've never left home.
Midwest Minnesota boy.
Yeah.
You packed up and moved to California, sort of like rolling the dice on that's where everything's happening, that's where I'm going.
Right. Because prior to this, things have been going really well for me. That was my plan. Yeah. So born and raised in Mankato, went to high school here, went to college here.
Yeah.
And then, now things are going so well. I'm gonna hit the big time, right?
Yes, so, exactly.
Yeah. So I did go out to California. And by the way, when I was, in Mankato, I was just surrounded by like great community. My InterVarsity community is huge. I didn't really get connected until my sophomore year, but like those were my deepest friends, the people I spent all my time with. Like the Lord really showed up for me in my college career and reinforced like so many things.
That's awesome.
Me. But I'm graduated and I'm ready to move on, right? Because you can't stay in college forever, and you can't have your InterVarsity community forever. It's like there's seasons, right?
It's a season.
Yeah, out to California. I get out there and I'm starting to look for jobs, and it turns out the bubble has begun to burst in .com land. Like I'm not having any success. I'm not getting any callbacks on any interviews or anything. I'm basically kind of just living with my grandpa, for free.
Yeah.
Waiting for something to happen. Right. And it wasn't happening. Eventually I was thinking, well, maybe my Mankato school, my credentials aren't being taken seriously here. So I started, after doing a lot of job searching and just getting no callbacks, it was, let's, maybe I need some additional certifications or schools from, something that's Southern California related that's going to give me some, employment cred. So started looking at, whatever, going back for a master's degree or anything, even a tech school of some type. And, I was basically, I looked at a few places and they're like, yeah, none of your stuff's going to transfer. You're going to have to start over. I'm not doing that. I already got my 4-year bachelor's. And so, right in the middle of this is 2001. I moved out there at the beginning of the summer, in June. And then in September, we had the terrorist attacks, the 2001 Twin Tower attacks. And if the economy hadn't been slowing down, it kind of came to a complete stop after that.
Gosh.
So, so that happened, not having any success out there. And then I discovered, the diploma that I thought I had, I didn't actually have.
What?
Yeah. So I was working on this group project. It was a senior design project, it was called. And this is a group project you have to do with a number of peers. And I had graduated, but the other 3 people on my team still had another semester to go. and our professor was not happy with the finished product that we'd put together. So, I'm emailing him, trying to call him. He's not responding to me, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like I actually don't have a degree. like how's that going to work? Like if I get, what if, I can't get a job if I don't have a degree.
Yeah.
So it's just these series of things like there's the sky's the limit, right? Like things are going so well. And then once I get into I actually had a good job, move out, until I can't find anything. It's just like the doors are all closing. And it's various reasons. It's, it's my professor won't sign off on something. It's 9/11. It's whatever, I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know. It just seemed like across the board, things weren't going the way I had planned them to go.
Right. Right.
So eventually I decided, well, like I got to go back home and talk to this professor who's not responding to me and just figure out like, I got to get a degree. And then once I get my degree, I'll, take the next step.
Yeah.
So came home, moved back in with my parents who I hadn't lived with in 5 years.
Right.
Did connect with the professor, and he finally, there was some misunderstanding, having a in-face conversation, was able to, I was able to get his blessing, and we were able to actually, I revised the final report to a place he liked it, and he signed off, got my diploma. Yay. Right. But, my plans,
right.
This wasn't part of the plan, right? This was not part of the plan.
No, you were supposed to be a up and coming bigwig at a big software company out in California at this point.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that did not happen.
Yeah.
So I got back, and at this point, just with everything that had happened, I was like, well, I need a job. I'll, apply for jobs in Minnesota. And I had a number of peers get good jobs up in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
Sure.
Working for companies. Like everybody was getting hired, like a year before.
Right.
But again, there was nothing in California, nothing in Minnesota at this point.
Wow.
So I'm sitting at home. I can tell my father specifically is getting kind of annoyed with the fact that I'm, not employed. And keep in mind, I've been working since I was, 16, right?
Right. So this is a change. So this is definitely a big new development.
Yeah. And I'm starting to feel like pretty worthless, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm asking the Lord, like, how could this be happening? Like things were going so well, right? Like you've opened doors for me in the past, and He really had. And so then I go back to my former employer, and I was like, gosh, and I've kind of got my tail between my legs at this point, right? Because I left them. I was like, yeah, you guys aren't good enough for me. I'm going to go become famous, right? Or, well, fabulously wealthy in some startup. And they're super gracious, and they're like, honestly, we'd love to hire you back, but we've actually had to lay off like half of our workforce here. So like, there is no job for you. So, at this point, I'm looking at getting a job at a fast food place or just something, I need to make some money, really feeling very much like a failure. Right.
Yeah.
The company did call me back about 2 weeks later, the place I'd been working for. And they said, if you just need something, we do have a job for you, but it's not writing software.
Okay.
Like we need someone at the front desk. We need someone to, do administrative work. We also need the toilets cleaned.
Oh my
janitorial stuff. I was like,
okay.
Yes, I will take
this. Not what you expected, but it's a job.
I was like, I'm not flipping burgers. This is not what I expected, but I've done this is where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
This is what I'm willing to do.
Yes.
And they graciously gave me a job. And it was super humbling, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, so Joel, you've walked us through this saga, like where just thing after thing after thing is not going the way that you expected it to. Can you take all of that and just boil it down for us? Because I mean, I think that we can easily understand why this is the case, but I'd love to hear in your words as you synthesize those ideas, like what was it specifically in that moment that you looked around you and said, this is a failure. I have failed at my next steps. Like, what was it about that situation for you that just felt like a failure?
I mean, I already spoke to this a little bit, but just, having really been independent, having always been employed, even if it, wasn't what I went to school for.
Sure.
Having, like, I was making no money, I was like living off of my parents, right?
Yeah.
Which, parents typically do take care of their kids, through high school, but this is 5 years out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm living with my younger siblings who are in high school, and what kind of an example am I setting for them?
Wow.
And yeah, that was super humbling,
yes.
And then just not, just like considering doing work that I would have been doing when I was 16, after going to school for 9 years, right? And getting a degree,
that was like a step in the wrong direction, probably.
Yeah, very much so, right?
Yeah.
And, I was asking the Lord about this, but not initially though. I will say that, I will say there was a little bit of arrogance, I think.
Huh.
Because I'd gotten this job in school related to what I was doing. And I just like this trajectory was going to continue. I was sure of it. Right.
Yeah. I've got this under control.
I got this under control. Right. This is all on me. And then, it's, even if you're super successful, we know that it's not up to us, right? It's the Lord who sets our path straight. And, eventually very much got there. Right. When I did go back, do you want me to move into kind of the next?
Yeah, I'd love to hear like what now, as you continued to move forward and as you look back on the time as you reflect, like how is it that God ends up showing up? I mean, you mentioned that like, okay, there ends up being a job. That's the Lord's provision right there for sure.
Absolutely.
But like even bigger picture, this sort of long view that you can provide, like how is it that God met you in the midst of this failure experience?
Yeah, I mean, so at this point, I'm very humbled, right? Like more humble than I have been ever, right?
Yeah.
In my life to this point, right? And it's just, I'm just really grasping to understand, like, did I do something wrong? Am I?
Yeah. Wow.
Was I not? Was there a plan God had for me that I just was ignoring?
Right.
Was I? Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I was being a prodigal or anything, but, was it, what did I miss? Like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
And then,
what did I do wrong
I did.
Here?
Yeah. And it did really come down to like, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, well, I don't, I've traded some things wrong, but, it wasn't, it's just the way things go sometimes,
Yeah.
And I think, for students, there's some parallels right now to like 25 years ago. Like there's this AI bubble. You've probably got some students who went to school for computer science that are really struggling to find work right now.
Yeah.
Because of AI, right?
Right. Wow.
We don't have 9/11, but we just had Venezuela's president.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Brought to the United States. We've got geopolitical instability, right?
Yeah.
Back then that was happening. Right now it's happening. There will be wars and rumors of wars. And it's
yes. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. I mean, things don't change in very many respects, which is why we need Jesus.
Yes.
Which is why we need the Lord. And that's why we got to focus on. We got to make Jesus our focus. We need to look up instead of looking to the side and looking within.
Yeah.
Right. My story, I mean, the company I worked for did eventually get a big contract, and they were able to hire me back into a computer science role. And that was sort of like the beginning of, Lord, you are providing for me. You know, they gave me a very fair wage, you know, a lot less than a lot of my peers had been making up in the Twin Cities. But many of my peers lost their jobs because the dot-com bubble burst. They had like house payments. They had bought new cars. They found themselves in a lot of trouble that I didn't find myself in because I had kind of had some hardship on the front side, right?
Yeah, you'd been living with friends and family members and not purchasing your own property and things like that.
Yeah.
That then was not necessarily a rock around your neck when things got hard.
Yeah. And, you know, if I could definitely see myself having done the things that my peers did.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, if the Lord hadn't had other plans for me. And then, you know, eventually, like, things went great. I'm still working in computer science. I've got a great job. My office is based in the Mankato area, still here. Surprise.
Sticking around.
It's a great place to live. I've raised a beautiful family here. I met my wife here. Like, there's so many reasons that the Lord had me coming back here. Yeah. You know, but it wasn't my plans, and it wasn't the way I figured it would go. So,
wow. Yeah. The Lord was clearly very faithful. And I think it's interesting that you bring up that thought of, like, you know, did I do something wrong? You know, I don't feel like I was a prodigal, but, you know, I felt like I was, it seemed to me that you made an informed, it was certainly a risk. You took a risk, but it was an informed risk of, like, this is where there's lots of opportunity, and I have the skill set to lean into that opportunity, and I'm going to go. And that, like, that's not necessarily some, it's all about me, I'm going to do whatever I want kind of thing. It's like, no, I've learned these things, and there's work to be done out there. I'm going to go get it. And that just seems like strategic. It seems like there's wisdom in that. And, but it would also be very easy to look at that and say, like, wow, well, did I just make the wrong choice? And to say, like, man, no, actually that was part of the Lord's plan, and his provision for you was that upfront hardship that then made it so that there was future opportunity for you. Maybe not in the ways that you expected, but that it was there.
Very much so. Yeah. That's a good synopsis of really how things played out. Yeah. For me. Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Well, so then, Joel, as you think about some of our young alumni who are listening in, maybe who have made a big move, or who have spent a lot of time learning new skills and saying, there's an opportunity for me to invest those skills and to start preparing for my future, or just in general, people who are stepping into this new season of life and who are, or certainly will, experience failure of some kind. Do you have just kind of a you know, from one alum to another, like maybe sort of a big brother alum to some degree, a word of advice or encouragement that you would give to other young alumni who are or will experience things like this too?
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say is failure is going to happen.
Yes.
Like, you will fail, you know, but that doesn't mean that's not actually a bad thing. All the time, right? You can learn from that. I would just say, you know, trust in the Lord, be seeking the Lord's guidance. And, you know, he doesn't say yes all the time. Sometimes it's, you know, sometimes there's silence, and you just got to wait, you know, and sometimes there's just like, no, like, this isn't good for you. Right. So just be seeking the Lord's guidance, you know, try to find community. You know, try to find community with others that are seeking the Lord too. Like, get connected with, if you can get connected with a church body or someplace that you can pour into, that helps, and it helps you see yourself outside of yourself.
Yeah,
it really does. Remember that the Lord has plans for you, He really does. I can't remember the scripture, but I have plans to prosper you, and something to that effect, right? It's true. It really is true, but yeah, things, even the best laid plans, or maybe not the best laid plan, plans just, things aren't always going to go the way you expect them to. But I think when you reflect, at least I have, they have worked out the way they were supposed to, right? And the way that the Lord intended them to.
Yes. And I assume that you're referring to Jeremiah 29:11 in the passage that you're referring to there. You're talking about, the Lord will prosper you. I have a plan for you. And that even that word prosper, like we might interpret that differently than the Lord does. Like, what does it look like for the Lord to help us prosper? And especially knowing that word comes from, I think it's from that shalom, like completeness or wholeness, that, I have completeness and wholeness in store for you. And, that might come in a package that isn't what you expected, but it will be the right thing at the right time in the right way. And you can take that to the bank with the Lord.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. And you may not feel it again. It's not, life can be, just because life is challenging doesn't mean life is bad.
Right.
There's so much hope to be, God created us. God made us to be in community with himself and with others. But there's no promise that it's always going to go, the way you want it to.
Right.
Or, well, in the ways of this world. But I really do feel like the Lord does bring that as well. When you're focusing on him, he helps you in other ways that you wouldn't even expect. So if you start your day, and I'm guilty of not, even 30 years out, like I could use this advice to myself, like wake up, think about, start the day, asking what the Lord wants or what he would have you do. And he'll smooth out the rest, it really will.
Alumni, God's provision and prosperity and shalom is with you. God himself is with you. You don't have to go searching. You don't have to get it all right and choose the exact right path to experience his goodness. It's yours. He's offering it to you, and it's free to enjoy. Now, in instances of failure, it probably will feel further away. It probably will feel like you have to go hunting for it, but you don't. You just might have to devote a little extra time to pausing, reflecting, and noticing the instances of God's goodness and provision in your life. You may have to recalibrate your expectations for what it looks like and how he's providing, but you can be certain that he is providing, and he is making a way for you that's good for you, that's good for others, and that's good for the purposes that he's laid out for you. Because sometimes God's provision just looks a lot like moving far away from home, not finding success in your career, and walking a very different path than you expected. Joel, thank you again for joining us this week and for sharing your story. I am so grateful for you and for the encouragement that you and your family have been in my life and my family's life. We are just a few of the people who have been blessed by the unexpected path God took you on. Alumni, be sure to come back next week for our good friend Selah to return to the podcast and share a story about the time she obeyed God and totally changed her post-graduation plans and still experienced failure. Until then, consider sharing this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the after, alumni. Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Zentera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.